Keir Starmer has one fatal problem that will end his premiership. Right, let's not mince words here. Keir Starmer is staring down the barrel of a political catastrophe so profound, so utterly ruinous, that even his most ardent defenders must be quietly drafting their CVS. 4 million people. That's 4 million individuals collecting jobless benefits without so much as a pretense of looking for work. And if you're sitting there thinking this sounds familiar, well, you'd be absolutely right to feel a bit of déjà vu because we've seen this sorry show before. But here's the thing that should make every single one of us sit up and pay attention. This number has shot up 50% since Labour waltzed into number 10 just last summer. 50%. In little over a year. Now, before we go any further, if you appreciate this kind of no-nonsense political analysis, do me a small favor and subscribe to UK Connors. We're building something rather special here, cutting through the Westminster waffle to bring you the truth that the establishment would rather you didn't hear. Right, back to the carnage at hand. The Department for Work and Pensions has just delivered figures that would make even the most optimistic spin doctor reach for the gin. We're witnessing the number of foreigners claiming universal credit hitting record levels while unemployment has climbed to 5%, the highest we've seen since COVID turned the economy into something resembling a dumpster fire. But here's where it gets properly interesting, and by interesting I mean politically toxic. Starmer has already demonstrated, with the subtlety of a sledgehammer to find China, that he will not fix this problem. His own backbenchers staged a rebellion of biblical proportions when he dared suggest tightening the rules around disability and sickness benefits. The far left of his party threw their toys out of the pram, wrapped themselves in the flag of compassion, and effectively handcuffed the Prime Minister to a system that's hemorrhaging money faster than a Russian oligarch's yacht burns diesel. Let me paint you a picture from my neck of the woods in Middlesbrough. There are estates where claiming benefits has become the family trade, passed down with the same reverence as a baker might teach his son the perfect sourdough starter. Generation after generation, never working, never contributing, simply existing in a state-sponsored limbo that benefits absolutely no one. And before the Twitter mob descends screaming about compassion and understanding, let me be crystal clear. This isn't compassion. This is entrapment. This is condemning people to lives devoid of purpose, structure, or the fundamental human dignity that comes from owning one's own way. It's a gilded cage, and Starmer is not just refusing to unlock it. He's reinforcing the bars. The statistics on young people should alarm every single person in this country. We're seeing unprecedented numbers of under-30s being signed off by GPS for anxiety, depression, and ADHD. Now, listen carefully because this bit is important. These are legitimate conditions that deserve proper treatment and support. Nobody with half a brain is suggesting otherwise. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in Westminster wants to acknowledge. For milder cases, a life spent languishing on benefits with no routine, no goals, no sense of purpose or achievement is precisely the worst possible medicine. We're medicating a generation into economic inactivity, and the long-term consequences will be catastrophic. These young people deserve better than being warehoused in a system that asks nothing of them and gives them nothing in return except a subsistence existence and a lifetime of missed opportunities. And just when you thought the situation couldn't get more absurd, more economically suicidal, we're careening toward a budget that will shred Labour's election promises like confetti at a particularly vindictive wedding. Income tax rises on the horizon, targeted squarely at those who actually turn up to work every morning, who contribute to society, who play by the rules. The working people of this nation are about to be handed the bill for a welfare system that's spiraling out of control. The Center for Social Justice has crunched the numbers, and they make for grim reading. Each taxpayer is looking at forking out an additional £700 a year because this government lacks the political courage to reform a broken system. £700. That's not pocket change. That's a family holiday. That's a month's groceries. That's the difference between getting by and really living for millions of households already stretched thinner than Parliament's moral authority. So here's a question that should be keeping every Labour strategist awake at night, staring at their bedroom ceiling in existential dread. Will Starmer find a backbone to actually tackle the shirkers and prevent this grossly unfair punishment being inflicted on the people who already carry the weight of the nation on their shoulders? The answer, I'm afraid to say, is about as likely as finding a Conservative MP who doesn't own a second home. It simply isn't happening. The political capital required, the willingness to face down his own party, the sheer nerve needed to tell the truth about welfare dependency, Starmer possesses none of it. He has shown his hand, and it's utterly empty. This is why, despite being barely 14 months into what should be a honeymoon period, Starmer's premiership already has a distinct whiff of mortality about it. He is politically spent, neutered by his own party's ideology and his personal inability to make the hard choices that leadership demands. The Tories must be watching the slow-motion car crash with the kind of glee usually reserved for finding a 20-pound note in an old coat pocket. They couldn't have scripted this better if they tried, Labour proving, in real time, every accusation that was leveled against them during the election campaign. The tragedy is that while the politicians play their games and the activists shout their slogans, real people are being failed. The young person signed off work who could have had a career, the taxpayer working 60-hour weeks who's being bled dry, the genuine claimant whose support gets lost in a system drowning in fraud and abuse. They're all casualties of a government that knows what needs to be done but lacks the courage to do it. This is UK Connors, where we don't do comfortable lies or convenient fictions. Come back for more analysis that actually tells you what's happening in British politics, not what the establishment wants you to believe. The Starmer story is far from over, and trust me, it's only going to get more chaotic from here.